There's nothing that sucks worse than being walked all over by somebody in a relationship. So maybe you have a man who's pushing past your boundaries, or he's using you for sex or money or wasting your time. He's emotionally, mentally, or even physically abusing you. You do not have to go through this. And first, before I say anything else, I want to say that for the most part, most people don't choose to get walked all over, right? They aren't like, hey, I want to get all walked all over. I want somebody to hurt me, somebody to abuse me, somebody to neglect me, someone to take me for granted, someone to ignore my boundaries and all that kind of stuff. Most people, I mean, there are, granted, there are some people that like that, but I'm just going to assume that you're not one of those people. If that's the case, then for the most part, for most people, it's not something that they chose, right? It usually comes from bad role models from when you're younger, and you see a lot of times it's parents that are treating each other really badly, or maybe you had past relationships where you didn't really know any better and you just kind of gave everything to it, and you were in this weird situation and you were scared and you didn't know what to do. Or it could be some kind of conditioning that you had in your life where over time you were kind of beaten down and you got to this place where you didn't really feel like you deserved to have something better. And so you allowed people to just start hurting you and walking all over you because you didn't think that you were worth anything more. And so today I'm going to be talking about how to kind of get out of this and how to make sure that you're not getting stuck in a situation like this at all. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to stop a man in his tracks from walking all over you. So let's jump right in. All right. So number one, how do you stop a man in his tracks? How do you make sure that you're not getting walked all over in a relationship, in a dating scenario, any of those kinds of things with a man? So the first thing that you need to do, and in my opinion, this is by far the most important thing that you can do, is you need to believe that you deserve something more. If you don't believe that you deserve something more, you're going to continue to get into the same situation over and over and over again, right? If you don't believe it, if you don't believe you deserve something more, then nothing else that I'm going to say or anybody else is going to say is going to help you. You're going to continue to justify why you're in those situations and what's going on with them, and you're going to be a victim for the rest of your life. And so you have to, if you don't want to be a victim, and instead you want to create the life that you want, and you want to have a relationship where a man really respects you and values you and cares about you, you need to change the way that you look at yourself. And there's a lot of things around like self-image that you can do. I talk about this in the Forever Man program. There's also stuff that you can do like through affirmations, right? And just changing the way that you talk to yourself. So you want to change your self-image, the way that you see yourself, and create a new image, an image of a woman who believes that she deserves the kind of relationship that she wants to have. And you need to encompass and embody that image. That's one of the things that we do when we're talking about, the goddess or the high value woman or any of that kind of stuff. It's not to degrade other women by saying, oh, there's low value women, be a high value woman. Instead, it's about stepping into this new image of yourself who believes in your own value, who takes a stand for your own value, who says, I'm not going to put up with any of this nonsense from anybody else. I deserve something greater for myself in my life. And so you have to break that old pattern, that old image of who you think you are in your mind, and replace it with a new image. If you just break it, you're going to go back to it because you have nothing else to go to. If you have a new image and you just try to go to it without breaking the old one, then you're going to get sucked back into the old one. You have to break the old one and move to the new one. That's the best way that you can do it. So number 2 is do not get attached to a man before you have screened him. So this is a huge problem that a lot of women go through, because they'll meet a guy and they'll just like get attached to him, right? And they're just like, oh my God, he's so amazing. I think he's so awesome, right? And then they hook up with him and it just gets worse. And then they see all these red flags and they kind of ignore it, or they try to like manipulate him out of those. And he's like, oh, I don't really care. And then he just treats her even worse. But then she takes it. But then she's like, oh, you've got all these red flags. And he's like, so what, and she's like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to have to deal with it because I've told him over and over and over again that he shouldn't be like that, right? And he hasn't done anything differently. And why are you still in this situation? Because you're attached. You're overly attached to a man before you knew whether he was good for you or not. And so there's a part of this where we don't have a whole lot of say in it. Right? That's one of the reasons why they call it falling in love, because falling in love is like this thing where you kind of can't really stop yourself. You're just falling in love, and all of a sudden you're love drunk and you're doing dumb things and, singing off rooftops and, dancing around because you're so in love and you'll do anything for this man. And then you just ignore all of his red flags. So, I mean, there are parts where there's not a lot that you can do, but you can recognize it, right? You can recognize it when it's happening and go, wait a second, like maybe this is a big red flag that I'm so kind of enamored and love drunk with this guy. Maybe I need to pull back from it a little bit. Another thing that you can do is what I talk about with abundance dating, because one of the reasons why a lot of women get so attached so quickly is because they're in the world of scarcity. And so if you're in this world of scarcity and there's just this one guy, and he's the only guy you've got, and he's just amazing because he's the only guy you've got, right? Which is what happens when you're in scarcity, right? If there's only one place where you can get water, even if it's muddy water, you're going to go there and get the water. Why? Because you need water. And so if you have multiple different places that you can go get water, all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm not going to go to the muddy water because there's clean water over here. And so if you're in a place, that's what scarcity is versus abundance. If you're in a place where there's just one man and he's muddy water, right? What options do you have? Whereas if you have a few different men and one of them is muddy water or two of them is muddy water and there's a clean water over here, you have more options in what you want to do. Or ideally there's a bunch of clean waters and you don't have any muddy water around you at all because you believe in your own value and you wouldn't put yourself around that person in the first place. All right. So number 3 is taking a stand. You need to take a stand for your boundaries. So you want to remember that rock song. What was it? It was like, we're not going to take it. No, we ain't going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore. Right? That's what you want to start doing. Start singing that in your head, right? And by the way, this is after at least the first one, but also the second one. And third one is taking a stand. So you make a decision. You're not going to take it anymore. You're going to get into a great relationship or nothing else because you aren't going to settle for crumbs. And you don't want something that's bad. And if you got a guy who's in your life who's treating you badly right now, then you have made a decision that you ain't going to take it no more. And so it's very, very important that you do that, right? It's important that you make a decision, right? Decision is when you cut off all other options and it's just this one, right? And you've just got this one decision, which is, I ain't going to take it anymore. And you're going to move on, right? The next one, number 4, let's talk about number 4 here, is setting boundaries and sticking to them. And so we won't know, no man knows what your boundaries are unless you communicate them. I get a lot of women who, and understandably, they don't want to have to teach a man how to treat them. But most men have no idea how to treat you. That's like the overwhelming majority of men out there have no idea, right? He might just be clueless. He might have had different role models for, how to treat a woman in his life. He might think that he's doing the right thing with you. And, that's not the right thing for you, right? It might be that in his previous relationships, he dated women who either enjoyed being walked all over, because there are a bunch of women that like that. They actually like it. It's like a big turn on for them, which is why a lot of guys do it, because and it's one of those things where a lot of women are like, oh, he's overly dominating, right? He's domineering and all that kind of stuff. There are a lot of women that are really turned on by overly domineering guys. It's a fact. I've seen it over and over and over again. Or he dated somebody who, let him do this. And so that's what he thought was normal behavior. And so you need to communicate what your boundaries are. Let him know what it is that you want. Let him know what your boundary is, and make sure that he agrees to the boundary that you have, right? Number 5 is you want to break patterns. You want to break old patterns. Break patterns. What is a pattern? What am I even talking about? A pattern is like a thing that happens over and over and over in your life, or in a situation, or in a relationship. So the way that things work is there's a frame. And if that frame gets set, right, and a frame is basically an agreement that you have with somebody, right? So an agreement might be, that whatever he says goes, right? That's a frame that could get set. And if he sets that frame with you and you accept it, and then that happens over and over and over again, it becomes a pattern. And if that pattern happens over and over again, eventually it'll become an identity for the relationship, so that the relationship is he gets whatever he wants and you don't get a say in anything. And so if that, you don't want it to get that far, right? Because once it gets to an identity, it's really difficult to break it. Like the longer a frame becomes a pattern and stays a pattern, the more difficult it is to change things around. It's one of those things where they say, like, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And there's a bunch of different reasons for that. But one of the reasons is because the dog has gotten into this pattern of certain things throughout its life, where that's just how it is now. And trying to teach them something new about it is really difficult, because the dog's like, oh, this is normally what I do. I don't know why you're adding something into this, right? And it's kind of similar in relationships and people and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if that metaphor really landed or not. But anyway, the point is that you want to start breaking it, right? You want to break that pattern up, like chop suey. Just start. You want to, I don't know what chop suey is. I think that's actually like a food or something. Maybe I'm saying something racist here. I don't know. But you want to like karate chop that thing, the pattern, into oblivion. And how do you do that? By adding some chaos. You want to just break up things. You want to do some different stuff. I talk about this in detail in the Forever Man program on how to do this, how to break these things. And then number 6, and the last thing that you want to do, is you want to be willing to walk away. And so a lot of times I hear women, they'll say things like, I told him to value me. I told him to treat me right, or I gave him an ultimatum and it didn't work. First off, I want to say that ultimatums always work if you walk away, right? If one of the options is you walking away and you walk away, it worked. If you say that you're going to walk away and you don't, and he continues to do his old behavior, then it didn't work, right? If you walk away and you find somebody who values you more, That's an ultimatum that worked, right? So usually most people use ultimatums because they want to manipulate somebody, right? They want to change and control somebody's behavior. And so they say, I'm going to give this person an ultimatum, and it doesn't always work, especially if you don't have the right leverage. And then they go, oh, ultimatums don't work, right? So anyway, doesn't matter. The point is that you need to walk away from a situation that doesn't serve you. That is a high value behavior. Walking away from a situation that isn't right from you is high value. Staying in the situation and allowing a man to walk all over you is low value behavior. You want to be in high value behavior where you don't allow people to walk all over you. And the way that you do that is by walking, just walk away. Just walk away. Walk away. I'm going to go over the 6 again here. So number 1, and if you have any questions, go ahead and ask your questions. I'll get to them here in a second. Number 1 is you need to believe that you deserve something more. Number 2 is don't get attached to a man before you've screened him. Number 3 is take a stand for your boundaries. Number 4 is set boundaries and stick to those boundaries. Number 5 is break the pattern, break the image, break the pattern, break the identity. Whatever you need to break it. Chop suey. And then number 6 is being willing to walk away if you are not being valued.